Hey guys, we are back. Episode 204 out the top. It is January 30th, 2024. I'm back in Rock Life Studios. We've got Dan Carter with us. Not a lot's been going on the last week, really, I don't guess, but let's do a little catching up. What have you had going on?
Well, just work's been kind of kicking our butt. We're trying to get back in the swing of things for race season, and I guess now is just as good a time as any that let everybody know that we've been like really procrastinating for race season.
You think?
But I don't know if people's noticed that, but we've had L&W step up, especially Chet with L&W, and he's offered to build us a buggy for this season.
Yeah, we've been. So go back to last year. I'm gonna tell the whole story. Go back to last year. We had on the show we talked about Gilbert Hollingsworth building us another buggy.
Right.
We took Gilbert our stuff in Wind's Wildcat. March.
Yeah.
Yeah, took him our stuff in March. 1st of August. Still not a stick of pipe. Nothing had been done. So we went over and picked everything up. Got with Chet. Chet has been. They've started a couple. I don't think he was real happy with the way they were coming out. But now we've actually got what looks to be a buggy.
Right.
It's still a long way from being done, but it is a whole lot closer than anything else we've done had so far.
Right. And that's like our whole mentality has been, if it's meant to be, it'll be, and we just kind of put it out in the universe and let
Yeah,
it go.
I wanted, and not that I didn't want Chet to build it, but I wanted to go back with Gilbert because Gilbert had the old red buggy that he built was tough.
Right.
Close to home, I could go over and see it and run parts back and forth, and it was just going to be easier for me. And really wish that would have worked out. It didn't. Not going to say anything bad or throw anybody under the bus. It just didn't come through. So Chet's got us a solid, what looks like a pretty solid rig.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And like I understand that too. It just makes things a whole lot easier when you can just throw some parts in the truck and
Yeah, I mean
10, 15 miles down the road. But it's um that's the thing about finding anybody trying to find a cage builder or somebody to do fab work. Like it's terrible when they're hours away, as far as you needing to do something but you can't because they're hours away.
and
But
I don't know what it is about fab guys, man. It's just none of them will give you a straight answer.
well, I'll be honest, you fab guys need to get your shit together. I'm
Golly.
just gonna put it out there because uh, I've had the worst luck out of all of them, just damn near about. But I could go on a tangent about 4 or 5 hours about the fab guys that have screwed me over in the past, and it's coming one day. I believe I'm just going to have to let loose at the lips and just start telling everybody about all the ones that owe Dan Carter money for shit that they've been paid for and not done. But unfortunately, that's in the past. It's water on the bridge, and whatever happens, happens.
It
But
is.
L&W has been super good to us, and they've done what they've said they're going to do. But the main thing is, I understand that this is Chet's. It's his first baby that he's pushing out
Yeah.
for UTV, and he wants everything to be done right, and that's why I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
And it's
Eh,
he's been communicative. He's been accessible anytime we have questions or need to talk. He's always been just a phone call away.
Yeah, and
So
I don't think he's not when this started, he said that he was going to do it. He didn't give us a timeline, and we didn't really push him. Um, you know, but he's been honest,
Right.
and that's all from these fab guys. Um, if you can, if it's going to be 2 weeks, say 2 weeks. If it's going to be 6 months, say 6 months.
That's right. That's all you got to do. And it's like the thing about it, and then this is coming from me, a business owner myself. Your stress that you take on as a business owner, 90% of it comes from what you tell your customers.
Mm-hmm.
You tell them a deadline, or if you tell them, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you decide otherwise, that's where that stress comes from.
Well,
But
it's
like
all
I said,
self-induced.
right. Yeah, absolutely. But man, it's making me hot under the collar, man. You talking about all these fab guys. I got a few I'm going to strangle one day.
Listen, I've built a few cages. We built some full size rock crawlers, and I know it's a lot of work. It
Right.
is. And I'm not saying that some of these guys don't do excellent work. They do. They do
Right.
really good work. They just aren't very honest.
Right.
That's the frustration with me is, if I tell somebody at Rock Life, if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my best to do it within the time frame which I told them I was going to do it. And I, as a business owner, cannot stand for, I don't know, I just can't in good conscience tell somebody something that I'm going to do something knowing
Right.
that I'm full of shit.
Right.
And that's just the frustrating part. And that's what I've run into with a lot of man, there's just so much demand for all this stuff right now.
Yeah.
You would get, I feel like, all the business you wanted, even if you were slow,
Right.
as long as you communicated that.
Right.
You would stay as busy as you wanted to be. But I don't know. That's I didn't mean to go down that road. But
I didn't mean to get all that bent out of shape, but man, it's like that brought up a bunch of old wounds.
it was frustrating, and it still is frustrating.
Yeah.
But when the buggy gets done, it gets done.
Yeah. And that's something
he'll want it out of his way soon enough. Like he's
that's
hollering at us, we're holding him up now.
right. And I would rather it be that way.
Yeah.
Like I know we're probably about 3 hours away from LNW, and I've got to take some stuff to him this weekend. So, and it's a good thing that he's eager to get it out of the way. We're eager to get it finished. But, realistically, we're going to get the car back. We're going to do some testing, tuning with it. I would like for that thing I would like to know that thing is exactly where we want it before we strip it back down and powder it.
Yeah, I would too. That is a slippery slope though, because I know how that goes.
Right.
It'll never get done. We get in it, get comfortable. Oh, we'll tear it down next week. Oh, well, we got a little. Well, maybe no. Let's do this. But we'll get there. And
yeah.
It's a good looking rig. I don't know if you want to hold on to the photographic evidence.
Yeah. I mean, that's up to you if you want to. I would say, if you want to take what we've been sent and just put it on the YouTube version of this podcast, just to
we'll overlay it. It's a good looking rig. I think for his first. Now listen, guys. I don't know if Chet. I don't know if he's building buggies. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's a thing. But he is at the present time. But I don't know if that's something that they're going to continue to do, or if he's just using it as some R&D and developing some chassis builder parts out of it. So don't blow him up.
Right, absolutely, and that's something that him and I talked about, and I think as of now, it's more or less just like a little bit of an R&D project. We are using some of their parts that they're developing. I know that he said a lot of this stuff that he's building for this buggy is one off, but it's also incorporating some of their other products that they're putting out, such as I don't know exactly what this piece is called, but all I know is it is basically the drive shaft
It's the cross member.
cross
Yeah,
member.
yeah, yeah. It's that removable. You Pro XP guys will know what I'm talking about. It's the piece that runs across the carrier bearing sets on, where you can
Right.
unbolt it. We got one of those in the chassis.
Right. So that's part of their research and development. He said that he wants this thing to be to where you can take the drive shaft out of it, get to the cross bearing or whatever from top, bottom, front, whatever. Like he just like I said, it's more of an R&D project. So like you said mentioned, don't blow him up, but because these parts are going to be available to the public, sooner or later.
Yeah, I think he had talked about making a builder's kit, with some throttle pedal mounts and
Right.
maybe seat mounts and different things like that. I don't know. We'll see how that turns out in the future. But I like the rig. We'll put some pictures of it up. He's barking at us waiting on parts, so we're gonna get him some stuff headed that way. So real grateful for that.
Right.
Our new studio is still in the works. We've in the past few weeks we finally got some insulation up. We are about 3/4 of a way putting up wall coverings, I guess you could say. So hopefully we got our new electric pole set yesterday. Right now we're running the building off an extension cord. So hopefully we'll have everything in the next month or two buttoned up and have something looks a little nicer. I'm excited to have a place here at home to come do this stuff. So hopefully that's going to be getting wrapped up here in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Because every week we've done this podcast, which I think this is probably the third week we've done it. I've done it out of the building here now. I've had the tables and I just brought the backdrop home just to put it up wherever the table wound up that week. So this is the third different place in the building. We just keep moving things around until we get everything caught up. But that's good. I'll be real glad to have a permanent home for everything, and got some cool stuff we're going to be hanging up on the walls, and we're going to fix it up pretty nice. 1 million views on YouTube finally.
That blows my mind.
That's I know that's not a lot, and I know there's people out there with shorts that have way more than that. One video. We don't. We have chugged along, especially since probably August, trying to get some content out. But we finally hit 1 million total views the other day, which for me is a huge, I guess, milestone.
Right.
So that's cool. YouTube's rocking and rolling. Studio's rocking and rolling. Buggy's rocking and rolling. It's a good time. It's a good time to be around this joint. Hopefully we got some more cool things coming we can talk about in the next few weeks. All right. King of the Hammers is this week. We talked about that a little bit last week.
Right.
We have talked about that actually, the Ultra 4 King of the Hammers kind of deal. We've talked about that quite a bit this year already. Polaris took, for the second year in a row, Polaris factory team took the Desert Challenge. This year it was a podium sweep. All of the Polaris factory racers, 1, 2, and 3. I think Brock Hager got the win. So those guys are tearing that up in those Pro R factory race machines. Glad to see them doing good. Hope they can continue that on. I know Brock had a pretty good qualifying effort for the rock race on Thursday. But, man, I watched probably 90% of qualifying the other day, for the
Yeah.
UTV race, and that was a long ass qualifying course.
I think it was, wasn't it 5 miles?
Like 5 miles. Yeah, it was 7.5 minutes. Was the Kyle Chaney took the pole in that new Can-Am in his 7.5 minutes, a little over 5 miles down back door. Um, there was some interesting stuff going on during qualifying. We'll talk. I just want to kind of glance over some of the names that the rock racers. When I say rock racers, hill climb. Us guys,
Right.
us East Coast guys. Some of the names that we may know that put out some qualifying efforts. So Polaris got the desert win. Cheney did get the pole with that Maverick R. The You had kind of mentioned this. The video of him jumping down back door
Right.
instantly blew up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, watch a highlight reel from any of our races.
Right.
That's nothing. He didn't even go down the big part of back door.
Right.
He went down
And
to the
then
left of it.
yeah, and then there was a lot of people saying online, like in the comment sections, about where's the 9 foot drop? It looks like it's been filled in. It like they were catching a lot of slack on that. But I mean, honestly, I mean, not taking anything away from anybody, but that video just kind of reminded me of a typical national rock race,
Yeah, I
especially.
mean, just because he was the only one to do it that way,
Right.
it was kind of a big deal, I guess, for them. But I mean, it just kind of looked like one of our normal weekends.
Oh
Um,
yeah, hats off to those guys. Though. That was real cute.
oh Lord, we're gonna get drugged.
Film racing national rock
We're gonna
this.
get drugged for this episode. I do. So I did notice there was a lot of people with flat tires
Right.
during qualifying. He had to have had 40 pounds of air in those tires. Because if you notice, when he come down in the slow motion of that, the tire deflection was just unreal. That thing was sitting there wobbling back and forth,
Right.
but it didn't fold the bottom of it at any point.
No.
He had to have had 40 pounds of air in them things.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to know what they had in there. I'm like you though. It wasn't no 10 pounds or
No.
15. It had to be ballooned up.
Well, and the big Maverick R, the big hunky looking A-arm deal, you can see the insides of both of his front tires when it goes into slow-mo, how much they have scrubbed those A-arms. And you can sit there and see it, that top of that tire bounce off of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure in a straight desert run, that is cool. And I'm sure that it handles well and drives well. And it really didn't look like he got a bunch of feedback through the wheel.
Mm.
But man, I don't know about that. I still don't know about
It'll
it.
be
Because listen, yes, it was fast, but Kyle Chaney can drive.
right. Yeah.
He's won hammers the last 2 or 3 years. He can
Right.
drive. I don't think that run was due to that machine because it was any better or worse or whatnot. He's just a wheel man. I mean, he's been
Right.
on the top 2 or 3 qualifying spots for the last several years. But I don't know long term how that front suspension is going to, how it's going to work out.
Right. Yeah. He was driving that thing like he knew they had a whole another car in the pits waiting on him.
Well, I wonder why he thought that. Um, Speaking of somebody driving like they thought they had a whole nother car, this confused the ever loving everything out of me. Paul Wolf, who used to, national rock champion, running two different classes in the UTV at the same time. They started talking about it on the qualifying feed. USAC has a rule, and USAC, I guess, is the ones actually running this event. It's not, as far as I know, it's not an Ultra 4 event per se. It is its own event. Yes, Ultra 4 does get points from it, but it is not run by Ultra 4. It is run by USAC, and they have a rule to get awarded the finish or the points, I guess, for the event. You have to either, and you can declare, you have to either start or finish the race. Either. So from what I understand, Paul was going to take his main car, try to win overall, was going to wait at the finish line for the second car, who, if I'm not mistaken, and please don't drag me over this, I think that I heard Cantrell was going to drive Paul's second car and was going to stop just before the finish line, let Paul in to roll it across the finish so Paul would get credit for two different classes.
Right.
I don't like that.
Yeah, that's really confusing.
And I'm not taking anything away from Paul. I mean, if the rules are the rules, then the rules are the rules. And if he's within the bounds and the spectrum of the rules, then that's whatever. But the rule sucks.
Right. I would say that they would probably change that rule after this happens.
I would be ashamed to know that was even available.
Right.
I get that Ultra 4 awards points from Hammers, and to be eligible for the Ultra 4 championship, you have to run all the events. Right. So I'm assuming that he is wanting to run for the championship in the second car, maybe. And he needed the Hammers points. I don't know. It's so dumb. This is the dumbest thing. It's dumb that we're even talking about this. No man can finish that race, a one-day race. You cannot do it in two different cars. Shouldn't be able to. It's dumb that it's even being talked about. I don't like it. But here is the karma for that. Paul qualified both cars, no time. Overdrove both of them, turned them over. So maybe it wasn't such a good idea.
Right. Too much pressure.
Too much pressure. His main car, the one that I think he was shooting for the overall, had a smoking qualifying run going. Laid it on its side, pulling back onto the short course at the end of the run. All he had to do was finish the short course, roll across the finish line. Was going to be a top 5-10 time. No time.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so he turned over both of his cars. So him and Cantrell, if they're still running both cars, and I don't know. I know Travis Skelton went out there. Travis co-dogged for Paul a couple years ago when they finished third. And I think they were hoping for a repeat of that. But starting from that deep in the field, which I think there was 89 people who got a time.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. So Paul, at best, I think will be starting 90th. So there's no realistic shot of an overall or even a podium, I think, at any rate. Just because of the bottlenecks that's going to happen in front of them. I mean, they're going to be starting, what if they're 2 to a row, 30 seconds. So they're going to be starting 30 minutes behind. When they
It's
get to,
almost like a Hail Mary to even get top 10 at that point.
well, once, yeah. And I think honestly, a top 15, top 20 would be a win.
Right.
Because you get to some of those rock sections, and I know he's fast, and I know he'll pass some cars in the desert. But you get into some of those rock sections, you get one guy that gets out and pulls a winch line, and it just holds everybody up.
Right.
And unless Paul can really get around a bunch of those guys in the desert, I mean, it's going to make for a long day. Tony Ramos, of course, we've talked about him a lot. He's been on the show a bunch. He is running hammers. When he ran qualifying, looked like he was making sure he got a time. He didn't look like he was in any hurry.
Right.
He ended up in the 50-ish range. But he did get a time. He out-qualified Paul Wolf. Brian Hamby, Steven Rogers, both I think had flats. Had some rough qualifying times. Dylan Wells, which some of you guys may or may not know him. He run his kid used to run the short course at Dirty Turtle, run some survival stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I got to know them. But Dylan's out there running Chris Ambergy's old Pro XP or Turbo R or Pro R. I don't know what it is, but it's Ambergy's old car. He did not get a time. He tore the front end off of that during qualifying. Ambergy switched from the Polaris to a Can-Am. Ambergy's been racing forever. He's never been super, super fast, but he's always been pretty consistent. He just did not look comfortable in that Can-Am during qualifying.
Right.
So that just goes to show you it's not all about the car like everybody thinks it is. If you're not comfortable in it, it doesn't matter how fast it is. And then you had some notes on Caleb Clark. I don't know them.
Okay. Caleb raced a little bit of survival racing with us back in the Pro Rock days, and his dad is Ron, and Ron is wild. Like we all used to do knockout racing. Ron was more into drag racing, but it's one of those things. Like if Ron came, they were going to put on a show. And his brother Alan, which is Caleb's uncle, I'm not sure what year it was, but Alan was like, "Man, I think I want to run King of Hammers." Found somebody heading out west, threw his car on the trailer, flew out, didn't get a chance to qualify, started in the back of the pack, and finished 10th that year in his class.
So they were talking about on the live feed, and I don't know the guy's name. He's on there the last 2 or 3 years. I've heard him doing announcing. And he was talking about, even back in 17, 18, he said the races from then to now, especially in the UTVs, is completely different.
Right.
He said in like 17, 18, maybe even 19, the races were not so much about being fast. They were just about finishing.
Right.
So if you could hold it together back then, you could get, a pretty decent finishing result. But
Right.
He says now these cars have evolved so much. And I mean, they have, but I don't guess I'd realized how good cars have became in the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Now it is a legitimate race.
Right.
Used to, it was if you finish hammers, it was a victory.
Right.
Now everybody is shooting for podiums, class places. and the overall, I guess you don't have as many people just out there for the joyride, I
Right.
guess. That just goes to show you how far along these UTVs have came, and since 2017, 18, 19, with the new Turbo R's and the new X3s and the Pro R's, and even Kawasaki. Jeremy McGrath was out there running a Cowie. He had a pretty good qualifying time. I'm sure that's not a stock Kawasaki,
Right.
but he had a pretty good time. So it's cool, man. I'm excited for the race Thursday. It's going to be hard to beat Cheney. I think if anybody stands a chance, um, I think with a little luck, Brock Hager could creep in there and pose a little threat. I thought maybe Paul would have a chance this year, but obviously not now. There's still, Jay Shaw, who was typically really fast in qualifying. He laid down a top 20, I think, qualifying time, but that's not what we're used to seeing out of him, and he's in one of those new Maverick R's.
Right.
Tony Polari, run some survival races. He qualified pretty decent, but I think, man, if you're not in the top two or three, if you're not in the top three rows, I don't think you stand a chance.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like you said, them starting out two at a time, 30 seconds apart. I mean, it's going to be whoever can start the fastest or start the earliest and be the most consistent and hold the car together. Like we said, Cheney's a wheel man. I feel like he definitely would be top five. I don't know how many of those viral video coming off the back door hits that car could take. That looks so rough. I know. I would say if you did that three or four times, chances are you're going to be breaking some parts.
I don't think you can do that during the race. I don't think it's the risk is not the risk reward is not there during the race.
Right.
Um, and honestly, he out qualified second place by 15 seconds.
Right.
He could have just went down backdoor normal and still got the pole. So it really wasn't even there then. But you don't know that when you're running.
Right.
I don't know. I look forward to the race. I will get to watch most of it. Hopefully, we're going to throw it up on the TV at work, and then it runs way on through. I don't know how long they'll keep the cameras rolling. But it'll run way on through the evening, I'm sure. Be interesting to see who takes the win in that. And then big cars, the Gomez brothers. I met them the first time at Dirty Turtle. Oh, man. Probably, I'm going to say it was 2017 when they were running Ultra 4 up there.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. This is how dumb I was to it at that time. Parked next to Eric Miller, Hammers champion, national champion.
Right.
I had no idea. He's got his own RC car now. Like
Yeah.
RC 4-wheel drive just put out a Miller Brothers Racing replica of his King of Hammers 4400 car.
Right.
Parked right next to them. The Gomez brothers at that time, they rolled up in a semi-trailer that they looked like junkyard racers.
Yeah.
And they may be. And not that there's anything wrong with that. But, they're and forgive me, I can't remember who it is, which one it is, but I think it's JP. One of them's a Hammers champion now.
Yeah.
And the cars that they run are single seaters.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. But yeah, the first Ultra 4 race I went to, I talked to all those guys, didn't have a clue who none of them was. And it's cool that they're still running and still competing and still running up front.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like, and the cool thing about it is like there's there seems like there's not a big a turnover rate with Ultra 4 as there is like with our series, like the National Rock. You know, you get attached to some of these drivers and their families and stuff, and then next thing you know, they're hanging out with you a year or so, and then next year they move on to other things.
The top guys seem to hang out a
Right.
little longer. But I guess with what they do, you have to invest so much money and so much time.
Right.
You've either got to really love it or you don't. And let's
Right.
be honest, the people who come and go, you don't see them on the podium a lot.
That's right.
You know, and if you're not winning, it makes those bailing decisions a little easier.
Right.
If the guys are winning and getting trophies all the time, they tend to stick around.
Yeah.
All right, short and sweet today. Not a whole lot going on outside of hammers. We do have 4 weeks for the National Rock Racing Association's season opener at Windrock Offroad Park in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. Look forward to that. I assume we're racing the backside again. Rock Life will be there. Out the Top will be there. We're going to be recording live on location. We tried to do it down there last year, and the wind got in our way, and none of it was usable. Hopefully, we have a little better weather this go around. Look forward to that. You've got a pink buggy that you need to be working on, because it'll be here.
Right on.
Before you know it. Guys, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. If you haven't already, go ahead and give us a like, comment, subscribe, give us a share, tell your friends that we're out here. And for you guys that have UTVs, don't forget, use the code OUTTHETOP on rocklifeoffroad.com to get 10% off your entire order anytime at rocklifeoffroad.com. Dan, we'll talk to you next Tuesday for episode 5 of 2024.
All righty. Sounds good. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Out the Top Media. Check us out on YouTube for race recap videos, tech tips, installs, product reviews, and much more.